Hello and welcome, Zack and Mac, episode 7 here on our first December broadcast. Matt, how you doing today? Well, actually, before I ask Matt how you're doing today, let's intro because this actually has a lot to do with how you're feeling. Ravens and Steelers just cleaned up, just finished the game. We waited for the game to be over to start recording here on Wednesday, and Baltimore missing, I think it was 23 players on the list, or at least they had 23 people on their COVID-19 reserve list, including RG3, their top 2 running backs. Mark Andrews was on there, a lot of key players for them, and took that 19-14 loss to Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh moves to 11-0, and the Ravens down to 6-5. So now I'll ask you, Matt, how are you feeling? I know that you're a big Ravens fan. How'd you feel watching that game this afternoon?
Well, I could be better. There's no doubt about that, Zach. But the Ravens, like pretty much all season, have left too many opportunities at the table, Zach. I mean, there's really no other way to look at it. And you can look at the injuries and you can look at the COVID playing a factor. I understand that. No Lamar Jackson, RG3 coming in. You have no J.K. Dobbins, no Mark Ingram, so you're running out Justice Hill and you're running out Gus Edwards. I get all that. You got a lot of things going on defensively with guys missing time, defensive front. But at the bottom line is you just didn't cash in on the opportunities you had. You get out in this game. You get out. You can have a 7-6 lead. You handed them 6 points on the pick six from RG3. I mean, you hand them 6 points, and then you get a gift on a fumble recovery on the punt. You get a gift. You go down the field. You score 7-6. I'm feeling pretty good. I'll be honest. I was feeling pretty good, right? And then the second quarter comes along, and you're battling. You're doing a really good job defensively, and I think the defense really, you got to give them credit. I'll get to them, especially there on that last drive in the fourth quarter. But I'll get to them. But they battled hard. They battled well, and they did great, did really good, especially in the red zone defense. They got stingy down there and forced some field goals. They got the interception after the one fumble early on in the game. Tyus Bowser, they buckled down and got a pick early in that game. It was almost 7-0 before you snap your fingers 4 plays into this game. And then, Zach, the thing that really hurt me was the end of that second quarter, because the 3rd and 8 on your own side of the field, RG3 makes a great play, busts off a long run, and then the offense starts to click a little bit. You're starting to see the offensive line get into a rhythm, which struggled, by the way. I mean, they didn't play that well, but they were starting to get into a rhythm. And then the end of the second quarter is near. There's 25 seconds left after a nice Justice Hill run on 3rd down again, and then he runs it again to the 1-yard line.
Yeah.
They don't use it. John Harbaugh does, he calls a timeout, and the best play you come up with out of the timeout is a running back dive, HB dive right up the middle that gets stuffed, and you knew that Pittsburgh was just going to lay on the ground. You knew that was going to happen to waste
Matt,
time.
that's the suggested play when you click that in Madden, is the HB dive.
I knew that was happening. I would have liked to see, maybe a pass in that situation.
Well, they also had so much success running out to the edge, pulling the lineman all game. Why not do that?
Pulling the line, exactly. Pulling Orlando Brown and pulling, Phillips when he was in there, pulling them, right, to make play, pulling him, getting RG3 in space. It worked. And, you run a HB dive to Gus Edwards, they stop it, and then on 3rd and goal with, as time expires, Luke Wilson, who they just signed a week ago, made a really nice route. He got through the defensive line and was wide open, and, he just couldn't haul it in. And that really hurt me. I was on the way home from work listening to that on the radio, and I screamed. I really did. I couldn't believe what I just listened to, really. And then when I saw the video, I'm like, you got to be kidding me. You don't even get 3 points out of it, Zach.
No, they had a lot of missed opportunities.
we talked about it last week, the lack of execution with this team. And I understand that you didn't have your full team, but I tweeted it as well. This is why you're 6-5.
Yeah.
Those kind of mistakes. And I just got nothing else to say. And then you still battle. You play a pretty decent second half. You get Pittsburgh to go turnover on downs, and then you get a gift roughing the passer penalty, right? And you're moving the ball, and the next play, the first play after the roughing the passer penalty, you run an HB dive that loses 2 yards, and then you do it again on third down, and you got to punt the ball.
They were playing far too conservatively, I think, for what the offense is.
Too.
I mean, I have the numbers right in front of me, Matt. They only gained 90 yards in the air and 129 on the ground, but they only ran 46 plays. Big Ben threw more passes than the Ravens had plays. Big Ben had 51 attempts, completed 36 of those. The Ravens ran 46 plays. And that's because of what you're talking about. I was watching the game. I missed the middle of it. I went to get a haircut, and I came back and I watched it.
Looks good.
Thank you. I appreciate it. It's like all gone. It's great. I feel better, but my neck's going to be cold the next couple months. But yeah, the problem with the Ravens in that game, that they were just running real conservative plays. And RG3, I mean, in that offense, can run similarly with RG3. He's a very similar quarterback to Lamar Jackson, except I think, well, at least around in league circles, because I remember when watching him when he was on Washington in his first year, he was a good pocket passer. So he might be a little bit better of a pocket passer than Lamar, at least in his prime. But they run the same offense, but they didn't want to do that. They kind of had all these
And I think that interception.
That interception also killed any sort of confidence in him.
That's the thing. I think that interception, maybe they wanted to try some little short passes, and he threw that pick six, and they kind of changed the game plan. We're going to try to run it down their throat and hope for the best, really, because they were in some passing situations in second and long, and
the line was getting crushed each
third
play.
and long, where they really had no chance because of what you just said. The offensive line and pass blocking had no chance. There was one play when TJ Watt wasn't even touched. How do you miss him? How do you miss him? He's the best player on their team defensively. And you don't even block him. The guy stepped inside. I mean, that's the kind of stuff that happened in this game, Zach. And don't let me forget about that defensive drive there to end that game, Zach. I mean, you get a miracle touchdown. They bring in Trace McSorley. I love to see it. He's one of my favorite players. College
Penn State guy
of all time. Penn State guy.
Yeah.
He was the man. And I like to see him out there, and he looked pretty confident. I must say, he looked really confident out there, and he made a nice play. And Hollywood Brown did the rest there for that 70-yard touchdown. And now that glimmer of hope starts rising in me, Zach. I'm like, if we get a stop, maybe we could have the Trace McSorley game, because in this rivalry, Zach, a backup quarterback always is in the game. You can rely, Charlie Batch went into Baltimore and beat the Ravens one year. Dennis Dixon took the Ravens to the brink of elimination, in a game in overtime. So this kind of stuff happens in this rivalry. And, Trace comes in here and he gets a nice play and they get a touchdown. And then the defense goes out on the field. Did you see the 3rd and 6 play?
Yep.
Oh, my gosh. He just I like the defense there. They brought the defensive lineman or one defensive lineman into pass coverage.
Right.
I think that kind of fooled Ben up there a little bit, Zach. And he just floated it right over him. But there were still 2 defenders there. Chuck Clark came in. And he had a play at the ball. He just whipped, and Tyus Bowser couldn't get his hand on it. And it was a nice play and really nice catch from James Washington.
Well, he's outstanding. That was an incredible catch.
It was an incredible catch. But I'm just sitting here. I'm like, as a Ravens fan, that just can't happen.
Well, that should have been. It should have been a pick.
It should have been.
As soon as it came out of his hand, I'm like, they got it. And Washington had his hands all over it. He made a really good play on the ball.
At the very minimum, that needs to get knocked down.
Yeah.
And then when they actually do run the ball, they pick up 7 yards. They get the first down to end the game. Oh, man, it was a really difficult one to watch. But I will say this. After all that negative, I was pretty negative there in the first, 10 minutes of this show.
I'd say so. But with every right to be.
Yeah.
They didn't play well.
I'll give you some positive, or one positive. They battled their tail off. They competed. They played really hard. You got to give credit to John Harbaugh and the rest of the coaching staff, especially that defense. They played their guts out, and they got an easy schedule coming up. So if they get a little bit healthier, guys come off the COVID list, you could have a chance at a playoff run because you got Dallas still, you got the Giants still. No disrespect, but they're not that good of a football team.
No.
Daniel Jones being out. You still got
he's not ruled out yet, even for this week.
Really?
I mean, I would probably say he's not going to play, but they didn't rule him out completely yet. But still, I know what you mean. Yeah. Although, as a Giants fan, I look at that Ravens game now as a potentially winnable game.
Yeah, I think you should.
Because the defense is good. If the Giants' defense can stop the run and their secondary is good enough to, stop really good passing teams, and the Ravens are not one of those. So it's a good matchup for the Giants, but the offense would have to move the ball, which I think would be difficult.
Yeah.
But yeah, I see what you mean. I mean, they have, I have their schedule.
Jacksonville's on there.
Yeah, so they have Dallas. They're home against Dallas and at Cleveland, home against Jacksonville, home against the Giants, and at Cincinnati. So Dallas is a win. Cleveland is a really tough game.
See, that's the one, Zach. That's going to be the one.
Yeah.
That's going to be the difference between 11-5 and 10-6 range, really.
Yeah.
I really think.
Because they should beat Jacksonville. They should beat the Giants. They will beat Cincinnati.
And they'll beat Cincinnati.
So they have to beat Cleveland. The tougher games on that schedule are Cleveland and the Giants. And even the Giants, it's not that tough, but they're a team that can give you a run for your money.
Absolutely.
Just as somebody that watches them every week and has seen them play teams like the Steelers tough, they'll push you to the brink at the very and Tampa also, they had those big games. They'll push you to the edge. So, yeah, that was what we were gonna talk about next is, is there any hope for the Ravens to have a playoff spot? And they would have to do it in the wild card.
Yeah, absolutely. They got no chance of this. This division's a wrap after the Steelers won.
Well, the Steelers, unless they have a catastrophic meltdown and Cleveland wins out, then it is Pittsburgh's division. The Ravens can't win the division.
No.
Because they've been swept by Pittsburgh, and now they're 5 games out. So that's done. They can't win the division. They have to win in the wild card. And there's problems in the wild card right now. I mean, you got teams like Indianapolis, you got Miami there. Even the Raiders are in there now. I don't think the Raiders will make it, but that's another team that you got to try to leapfrog. And there's all these teams in that mix, and that could cause some problems. The Patriots could go on a run. Who knows? You can't count Belichick out. I mean, I don't think
after their win against Arizona, no, you can't.
Yeah, you can't count them out. I still think they're a bad team, but I think
they're outside looking in for sure.
Yeah, but Belichick's a good enough coach that they'll be interesting. They're playing meaningful December games. So, yeah, I don't know. I just looking at the Ravens. So let's say they do what we think they'll do, and I'm gonna say they lose to Cleveland, but they win the other 4 games. So then they're 10-6.
Is that good enough? That's the question.
Yeah, because this is a strong AFC this year. There's a lot of other really
you could have multiple teams that are 10-6 that aren't division winners.
Yeah.
When looking at it, Cleveland's going to be better than 10-6. There's
right.
Just no
I think
doubt
Cleveland
about
wins
that.
11 games.
Yeah, Cleveland's winning 11, maybe 12 games.
That's one out. The Dolphins might win a couple games down the stretch.
Dolphins have a tough schedule. Dolphins do have a tough schedule. I could see them. That's another. They could go 10-6.
If the offense is there, they can go 10-6.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So what do you do? Do the Ravens miss after going 14-2 next season?
That would be catastrophic.
I think it's a big possibility, though.
I think it is too.
If they can't win all 5 of these games, because they might have to win all 5 of these games, and that's a tall task to ask anybody. What's going to happen there? I mean, who knows? They are playing against Dallas on a Tuesday, which is unusual, at 8:05, and They should shred Dallas, but who knows? They still have some talent on that team. Cleveland, that's a tough game. Jacksonville is a foregone conclusion as well as Cincinnati. But then you got to face the Giants, and who knows? Maybe Daniel Jones is healthy, and that could be a really tough game. So they would have to win all 5 of these games to make the playoffs, I would think. And now we move over to Pittsburgh, and they're 11-0. To me, Matt, they're the strangest 11-0 team.
I agree.
They do lead the league in point differential, but they don't feel like the most dominant team in football.
Well, they showed it today.
What do you think? Yeah.
They showed it today. They weren't dominant today. They were there to be beat. There to be beat. And I will say this, the lack of their run game is going to hurt them down the future because they really have no offense outside of the 5 wide.
Yeah.
And to their credit, and maybe that is their run game, Zach, because you saw it in this game and you see it with this team. Ben, 2-step, 3-step drop, throw.
It works.
And it works. And no, it really does. On first down, they go, Ben in the shotgun, a quick 3-step drop pass over to Claypool or Juju for 4 yards.
Someone's got to be open.
Yeah, and that's what it is. And they're just running. They're giving. I think what they're doing, Zach, is they're taking what the defense gives them.
Yeah.
You saw the Ravens today playing a lot of cover 3, playing off the line of scrimmage because they didn't want to get beat deep because these receivers can beat you with long plays. And they just took what the Ravens gave them, and that was a lot of openings in the middle of the field, especially inside of 10 yards. And they were like, okay, you're going to give us 4 yards, we'll take it. And that's what happened in this game. Ben threw it 51 times, but out of those 51 passes, I feel like at least 15 to 20 were inside of 10 yards. And that's their
most
run
of
game.
them were. Yeah, that is their run. That's the kind of game that they're trying to play. They're not taking big shots downfield, but they're whittling away. They run a really nice West Coast, and it works. They have an older quarterback. He's not holding on to the ball forever. He drops back, throws it a couple times. Now, you saw some of his receivers drop a couple of balls here or there, but when they haul him in, I mean, it's really hard to stop.
It really is.
You just have to have
you
one
got
quick
5
move.
guys who can beat you.
Yeah, that's it. Even if you send everybody, now there's a higher chance of somebody being open. So it's an efficient offense. They run really well, and that defense is just something else. They're unbelievable.
That front seven's really solid, but Bud
even without Bud Dupree, if he's hurt,
yeah, he got hurt late in that game.
They're still They still might be the best front 7.
They're a really solid football team, Zach, and they are a really strange 11-0 team because they've really had some nail biters in there this season that they've able to just win.
Yeah,
and now their toughest game left on the schedule. Don't count out the team.
They have 3 tough games on the schedule left.
I think
Buffalo.
their toughest is Buffalo.
Yeah, Buffalo's going to be hard. They have to go to Buffalo on Sunday night. That's going to be a tough game. Although the Bills have been a little weird this year. They've gone like ice cold for a little while, and then they go back up. The defense has looked a little bit better. And I know you say don't count out the team. And you're right. You can't count out the team. If Pittsburgh plays the way they played today against Washington, they'll probably lose. But I think that they could beat them. Buffalo's tough. They'll beat Cincinnati. Indy's tough. And Cleveland is tough to end this season. I don't think this team ends up going undefeated. I think they maybe lose one of these final 2 games.
I agree. I could see them losing 1 or 2.
Especially to the Colts. I think the Colts are a good matchup.
Yeah, I think so too, Zach. And in that particular game, it's going to be up to Phillip Rivers because you see what Phillip Rivers did last week against Green Bay. He led a great second half comeback, and then this week he laid an egg against Tennessee.
Yeah.
So what Phillip Rivers are you going to get in that game is going to be key.
Yeah.
But I at most, Zach, I see at most 2 losses.
Yeah, maybe so 14-2, a 15-1 is what we're looking for. And then who's better though, them or Kansas City? If I had to pick right now, I think I would take Kansas City just because that offense is so unbelievably good. And while the defense isn't the best, they're good enough and they have good enough like stars on that defense that they'll always keep you in the game. And they're never out of it. They're down 20-something points, they'll come right back. So
Yeah.
I would currently take Kansas City over Pittsburgh right now, even with the one loss.
I think I would too. I would too. Pittsburgh's a really good team, and we understand that, and they're prolific offensively, but
And the
they are not.
defense.
And they are not and defense, but they are not Kansas City on offense. You see, I mean, Tyreek Hill had over 200 yards and a few touchdowns.
He had over
in the first
260
quarter.
yards in the game.
Yeah, and he had 200 of them in the first quarter.
Yeah.
Against the Tampa Bay defense, that's pretty solid now.
Well, they put man on him. They were saying, they're like, why? They're
Why
like,
are
you know
put-
that you can't put
the best
one guy
receiver
on
in
him.
football. We're putting playing man-to-man coverage.
Yeah, nobody could understand that. So they're going to take advantage of that every time. And they didn't run the ball super well in that game, but they have the guys to do it. They have Edwards-Helaire. They have Bell. They have Damian Williams. We've seen this team be able to run the ball when they have to. So yeah. So they're just, I don't know. Kansas City, Pittsburgh, though, if that's the AFC Championship game, that might end up being better than the Super Bowl, I think.
I think so too.
I think
the winner of that game's probably winning it all.
I think so too. The NFC is good, but if you think of the top teams in the NFC, they all have some sort of weakness. Like Green Bay, just they seem like the same team that they were last year. They're really, really good record-wise. They pick up some games, but then they lay some eggs in there as well.
Yep.
No, they had a couple big losses. So most recently, the one against Indy, that was not a good game. They let them come right back in.
Yep.
And then Seattle, their defense is playing better, but they're still not very good. And that's really it. I'm trying to think. Oh, the Saints, but Drew Brees, who knows how long he's going to be out, can Taysom Hill and the defense take them that far? No. And Tampa Bay, they're not that great. They're an above average team, but they're not.
I agree with that.
So I think the winner of the AFC, if it's Kansas City or Pittsburgh, that's your Super Bowl winner right there.
No ifs, ands, or buts about it, in my opinion.
Yeah, so that's the state of the NFL that we got right now after the Ravens and Steelers. Steelers move on to 11-0. The Ravens on to 6-5, third place in the AFC South, and on the outside. Man. Yeah, and on the outside looking in. We'll move over. We'll move up the I-95 over to the Bronx. The Yankees. Now, Matt,
your team here.
Yeah, that's right. The non-tender deadline is today at 8 o'clock. So by the time that this drops, it'll be over. But the Yankees have decided to tender an offer to Gary Sanchez. Now, it's going to be – there's a lot of nuance to this decision. So, obviously, we know he was awful last year. Slashed 147, 253, 365. That's average on base and slugging in 49 games, 10 homers, 24 RBIs. He would have had the lowest batting average if he would have qualified for the batting average title. All that was absolutely brutal behind the plate. Got replaced by Kyle Higashioka in the playoffs. But I know that Real Muto and McCann are available. James McCann are available on the market, but you can get Sanchez for a significantly lower price this year. And, he's been great. He made the All-Star team in 2019. And he made the All-Star team in 2017. And those were really good years. Now, do you just throw it away on him completely? You could always get rid of him next year. This is your last chance, really, to have him arbitration controlled. I don't know. Listen, I know he's been really bad. I think that if circumstances were a little bit different, it would be time to move on for him. But he just seems like a guy that if you hit the reset button, he can be right back to where he was. Because we've seen him hitting the upper 270s and in the 290s for stretches with an outrageous amount of home runs. He's a good player. He just has to wake up, and he's only 28. He just turned 28 today. It was his birthday. So happy birthday, Gary Sanchez. But, he's still fairly young, and some of the things that have been going on with him seem to be fixable. I don't know. As a Yankees fan, I'm frustrated with him because he's maddening. He's like the Evan Ingram of the New York Yankees. There's so much talent, so much potential there, and both of them go out and do amazing things, but then they'll do like 2 or 3 just things that want to make you rip your hair out. I just think at this point, it's not as much as I would love to get JT Realmuto. I also want to be able to keep Aaron Judge. I also want to be able to keep DJ LeMahieu. I want to be able to keep all these other guys, Luke Voit, Gleyber Torres down the line. You're going to have to pay them eventually. So I think the move right now is to keep Sanchez for this Yankees team. I really do. And it's tough. I've gone back and forth on it. I think even a few episodes ago, I think I might have said that it might have been time to move on from him. But given all the circumstances and, the financial situation with it, which I know is weird to be talking about finances and like lower parts of it with the Yankees, but it just seems like the best move right now to keep Gary Sanchez for the Yankees, even though last year he was absolutely dreadful.
Yeah, Zach, I agree completely with what you said. And I was very hard on Gary. I'll be honest. A few episodes ago, I said, get rid of him.
Right.
Get rid of him. And now, after seeing some of the information, maybe it's not the worst thing bringing him back here in 2021, Zach.
Well,
He
he
did
can't
have a
be.
bad.
He can't be worse.
He can't be worse. And he really he had some decent stretches, some all-star level seasons. And, the circumstances with COVID going on, shortened season, maybe he wasn't there all mentally. Maybe a full off season and, a full season next year will help him out. And I understand there's guys on the market like a Real Muto and some of the other guys you mentioned, McCann. But if you want to save some money and maybe bring in, re-sign guys and strengthen other parts of your team, maybe bringing back Sanchez this year isn't the worst idea. He can't, like we said, he can't be much worse than 147. He can't be much worse than that.
No, and I'd rather put that money towards another starting pitcher, bolster that bullpen again. And you have a Gashioka if it doesn't work out. And he's not terrible. He's much better defensively. So if it doesn't work out with Sanchez, I think this is a low-risk, high-reward thing for them because the offense is so good. It's so well-rounded up and down. They're one of the best 1 through 9 in the sport. Even if Sanchez is in there hitting 147, they're still one of the best 1 through 9 in all of Major League Baseball. So, yeah, if you keep him, he has such a high ceiling. You know what he can be. We've seen it a couple times. If he can pull it together, cut down on those strikeouts and start putting a few more balls in play, then this offense is going to be unbelievable. And you take that money and you grab a couple of, maybe another starting pitcher and a couple of relief arms, and this team's in the mix for the World Series yet again because of that. But if you go out and get Real Muto, now you can't really help the rotation as much, and you can't really help the bullpen, and they both need some help right now.
I think also the biggest thing for Sanchez is he tries to hit every ball out of the park.
Well, yeah, you see the effort.
I think that's just a main issue with him. He's got to shorten it up a little bit and, just like you just said, put the ball in play. Make the defense make plays. Don't try to hit a home run every time up. And I understand he's probably been told that, and he's probably been working on some things this offseason. But I think, in 2021, he could have a bounce-back season. This is somebody that has had success with 30 home run seasons and, hitting that, in the high 270s, and somebody that you can rely on. He isn't the best defensively, but he can give you some sparks on with the bat. So I think maybe bringing him back is not the worst thing. I think I wouldn't be surprised if he was back in Yankee pinstripes. I also wouldn't be surprised if he was gone because they signed somebody better for more money. But I think it's not the worst thing bringing back Gary Sanchez. I'm being a little bit too kind to him because it's his birthday today. To point that out. On other episodes, he'd be getting a lot of my face turning red and me yelling. But
as red as the flames on his birthday candles.
Yeah. I'm going to be a little bit nice and say, let's bounce back here in 2021. And if he's back in New York, I think watch out. I think he could have a decent year.
Well, because here's the big problem also if you're the Yankees or somebody, because they're worried that if they get rid of him, somebody's going to tell him something, and he's probably going to turn it around. Like, all that talent that he's got. So why not try to do it in-house? Why not at least be able to say, we did everything we could with this guy. We think he could be a star. Let's bring him back.
Yeah, that's the thing, Zach. Like, it's not like this guy's like 38 years old.
No, he's 28.
He's in the middle of his prime. He had one off year.
Yeah. His other problem is he's got to stay healthy. But he did this year. He played 49 games out of I think everybody played around 60, right?
Yeah.
So he played 49 to 60 games. But percentage-wise, that's about what you'd be looking for out of your starting catcher. So if he can stay healthy and he fixes that swing, right now the expectation for him is to be the 8 guy in the lineup. So anything beyond that, he exceeds it. He can work his way back to the middle. So I don't think it's the worst thing to hang on to him. But again, this is very circumstantial. If his arbitration number was a lot higher, or if he was a free agent, then you probably have to let him go and go get Real Muto because you might have to pay him a little bit of more money. But because of the situation they're in right now, I don't think it can hurt. You could always try to improve the position later on. I know Real Muto looks great, and I would love to see him in Yankee pinstripes, but there's just too many other areas of the team that you got to address right now if you want to put together a full championship contending team. Speaking of championship contending teams and players, Matt, before we do our NFL picks to wrap up the show, I think we'd be remiss if we didn't announce LeBron's 2-year, $85 million extension. He's going to be 38, 39 years old and making $44 million in the National Basketball Association, and something only LeBron James can do. If he plays out this deal, he will have been a Laker longer than he was in Miami. He was in Miami for 4 years. Then he'll be a Laker for 5 if he plays out the extension, because 2022, 2023 will be the last year, and that'll be year number 5 because he was on the Lakers the past 2 years, then this year, and then the 2 years after that. Will be on the extension. So my question for you, Matt, because I know you're excited to talk NBA, and we'll get to do that especially more next week once we get closer to the preseason getting started. But, I mean, how many rings do you think they can get in this next 3 years with him and Anthony Davis there? The West is really tough, and I know they won it last year, but, I mean, why not the Lakers?
I think it's a high possibility he could get 2 more. I really do, especially if him and AD stay together. That's one of the most lethal duos in all of the NBA. And the Clippers, in my opinion, have taken a step back. And Denver's still rising, but I don't think they're there yet. And some of the other teams, Golden State without Klay Thompson, again, due to that injury. So they're not going to be there this year, I don't think. I don't think in the top 3. Houston, who knows what the outlook is for them. But what we do know for certain is this team in LA called the Los Angeles Lakers are going to be there, and LeBron James is going to be there. And I like what they've done with some of their acquisitions as well, bringing in guys like Dennis Schroeder. Now, they did lose Danny. Yeah, he's a good ad. They did lose Danny Green, Zach, and, having that championship pedigree like Danny Green might hurt them in the future. But these guys are studs, LeBron and AD. And when you have a guy like LeBron who can literally he could be on any NBA team.
He makes everybody better.
He immediately makes them a playoff team. Any team in the NBA, New York Knicks, you want to go there. You want to go to the Sacramento Kings. Who else is a basement team out there in the West?
He could go back to Cleveland.
Yeah, he could go back to Cleveland. You could go back to Cleveland. They'd be a playoff team in the East and might have a chance to get to the finals. That's what the type of player this dude is. And when you have, I think AD is probably his best wingman in his career. Now, no disrespect to D Wade, but he has not had somebody as dominant like Anthony Davis, in my opinion.
He's getting prime Anthony Davis.
Yeah, this is like prime AD. And when LeBron first got to Miami, Wade was still there and he was still in his prime. But by the time, his last few years in Miami, we knew it was LeBron's team. We knew it. Yeah, in my opinion.
I think people knew it to begin with, too. Because Wade took a step back for LeBron, and so did Bosh. He took 2 steps.
And that's why it worked.
Yeah.
And that's why it worked in Miami. That's why they had 2 titles, probably should have had more. They should have beaten Dallas in 2010. or 2011. They should have beaten Dallas, but LeBron was still kind of getting over the yips, I think, and the choke there in the playoffs, and he finally did there, and he got that first ring. He had major success. Then he went back to Cleveland and won a title there, and made that team back to where they were, and because that team was in the dumps before they got him back.
Yeah, even with Kyrie, that team was atrocious.
Yeah, so they made, and that's the thing with Kyrie. You see where the careers have taken since that moment where they were both Cavaliers. Kyrie still really hasn't found his footing, you could say. Still
hoping he doesn't. Hoping he does in Brooklyn.
Yeah, and you're hoping he does in Brooklyn. He had that struggle in Boston, and then he got hurt in Brooklyn. And what's LeBron done since? Well, won an NBA championship, and he's doing it with Anthony Davis. So I think I don't know what you think here, Zach, but I think LeBron in the next 3 years could get 2. He's definitely, I think, going to get 1. I do definitely think 1. He could get 2, though.
They could probably get 1. I think it depends on a few things. It depends on how well the Clippers play in the next few years. And it depends on how well the Bucks and the Nets play in the next 2 years. If the Nets are able to actually put it together on paper, the team looks amazing. If that team goes out and they execute and they play well and they meet the Lakers in the finals, that's going to be a lot of fun. You get another KD versus LeBron matchup in there. Now you have Kyrie versus LeBron in there as well. And the Nets might have a little bit more depth than the Lakers. When they got Dinwiddie, they got Karis LeVert, they got Joe Harris, all those guys coming in. I could rattle off the whole roster pretty much. They have a deep team going against a team like the Lakers. So, we'll see how it goes. I think that they'll pick up 1 more. I think if they do win, it would be this year again, and then they'll see about next year whether they're able to, what they're able to do in terms of building around the talent that they have, like their top 2 stars. But, I think you could pick up 1 more, and then you would have 2 with the Lakers, 2 at Miami, and 1 with Cleveland. And I think we'll wait for this conversation later on, but that's going to raise the question if he wins 1 more with the Lakers is what team will he be remembered with the most? Would it be Cleveland, the Lakers, or Miami? So we could always talk about that another time. But right now, let's talk to the highlight of our show for sure, not just because we have things highlighted on our sheet, but let's go over to our NFL picks, Matt. Matt, I had a little bit of a better week last week, 3-2. Not quite back up to 500 overall, but 14-16. I went with Miami, Tennessee, and Seattle because I had Seattle at -5. A lot of people had them at -6.5. But when I made the pick, it was -5. I lost the Giants. They didn't cover, and the Bears definitely did not cover. Yeah, that was embarrassing. That team is just so – can you believe they started off the season undefeated for the first 4 games? I can't
believe it.
Yeah, that team's bad. So – while we get everything else left all and sorted out, I'll get started with my picks. So I got our 5. Got the 2 New York teams first and foremost. Let's kick things off with the New York Giants. Giants are visiting Seattle. That is a +10 line for the Giants. I'm going to take that, Matt, and here's why. Seattle's passing defense is really, really bad. If Daniel Jones plays, they'll definitely cover. If he doesn't play, they have a small chance of covering only because Seattle's defense is so bad. I think the Giants' defense is good enough to stop them a few times. I'm really excited to see James Bradbury and Logan Ryan and those guys match up against DK Metcalf. I think that that's going to be a good matchup. I think the Giants definitely lose this game to Seattle. Is it going to be by 2 scores? Maybe. But I like the Giants' chances mostly because of the defense and the way that they're able to at least keep themselves in ball games. So I have the Giants +10 to kick things off. Next, we move over back to MetLife Stadium and a rematch from last year, a game that I was at actually, the Jets and the Raiders. Raiders -8 at the Jets. I don't see any reason why Vegas doesn't win this game by 2 scores. I know that they got slaughtered by Atlanta was last week. Yeah. They got absolutely obliterated by them last week. That doesn't happen.
Oh, my gosh.
The Jets are a college football team or a semi-pro team right now. It doesn't matter who they have anywhere. If they have all their weapons, if they have none of their weapons, who's at quarterback, Flacco or Darnold, doesn't make too much of a difference to me. I think the Vegas defense and the running game and Derek Carr will have a field day against the Jets. I'll take them -8 over Gang Green. We got Minnesota and Jacksonville. Jacksonville +10 at Minnesota. This line looks a little bit big to me, Matt, especially given the fact that Jacksonville played Cleveland so close for a while last week. So +10 against a Minnesota team that blew it against an awful, awful Dallas Cowboys squad. I think Jacksonville with Mike Glennon, they have that veteran presence in there. James Robinson, he can run the football. And if they can
He had a great game.
He did. And if they can get a couple of stops against Minnesota, I don't see any reason why they can't cover this +10 spread. So I'm taking Jacksonville +10 at Minnesota. Let's go over to the Bay Area. We got the 49ers playing Buffalo. Buffalo's favored by 2. I like San Francisco and what they're able to do over there, but at the end of the day, they are 5-6, and Buffalo is 8-3. And Buffalo's offense, I think, is going to do really well, especially without, Nick Bosa and Solomon Thomas there on the edge. I think that they'll have a good time out there, and they'll win this game by at least 2 points. And then finally, we have an AFC South matchup. We have the Indianapolis Colts playing against the Houston Texans. And I think Indy wins this one. It's -3. They're at Houston. They're a much better football team. Houston has had some pretty good efforts in the past couple of weeks, but that Indy defense is going to be good enough. Houston's not going to be able to run the ball at all. It's going to be all, what can Deshaun Watson do? And, yeah, he can carry a team on his back when he has to, but I don't think he's going to get the job done. I think Indianapolis is too good here, and they'll win that game by at least 3 points. So I have the Giants +10, Vegas -8, Jacksonville +10, Buffalo -2, and the Indianapolis Colts -3. Those are my 5 picks this week. Looking to go back above 500. Matt, what you got for us?
Well, real quick, Zach, on that Indianapolis and Houston game, I think it's also really important to point out that no Will Fuller for the rest of the year. It's suspended with PEDs there for Houston.
That's gonna cause a big problem over there for them for sure.
So I like Indianapolis even more in that game now that he's out for sure, and I like that pick from you, Zach. So I like your picks. You got some ballsy ones. I will say that.
It worked last week. I went 3-2.
You did go 3-2, and you did better than me, who went 1-4 last week.
Yeah, that's
the
your worst
Ravens
week.
Covered today. I had them at +4. They lost by 5. I would have been 2-3. But I had some bad beats, Zach. I had Carolina money line pick of the week that just didn't get it done at all. And they had a lead in that game and absolutely blew it late. I had my only win was Washington, and they dominated that game. I love that pick. Vegas really let me down -3. How bad did they play against Atlanta?
They couldn't do anything against Atlanta.
Oh my gosh, Zach! I'm watching that game and I'm like, what in the heck? I listened to the Autumn Wind. You ever heard that with John Facenda, the NFL Films? You ever heard that?
Mm-hmm.
The song, it should have been called the Autumn L after that game. I'm listening to that, trying to get pumped up for that, and they stunk up the joint. And finally, Zach, I had the Eagles +5. They lost by 6, so that didn't really work out for me at all. Here are my picks this week, trying to bounce back. I'm 16-14 overall. To kick things off, we're going to start off with Philly, the Philly and the Washington and the Baltimore area. We're going to kick it off here. Green Bay -8.5. I like them over the Eagles. Zach, the Philadelphia has a problem on offense.
They have a lot of problems.
They got and they really do. They got so many problems, front office issues, Doug Peterson and Carson Wentz and Jalen Hurts. There's just too much drama going on with that team. Green Bay is coming off a really nice win over the hapless Bears. I think it's time that we can say that about Chicago. They got the same type of deal that the Eagles got going on.
Yeah, that's not a bad comparison, actually.
I think they are very. Don't you think they're really similar? Those two
teams? They both have big time quarterback issues, and in the Bears, they can't score any points. And the Bears' problem is they have a really good defense, but you can't stop people if you're on the field for 40 minutes a game. And the Eagles' defense isn't nearly as good as theirs, although they have a really good front seven. But both teams have major quarterback problems, and it's not going to get any better until they have somebody new come in at that position.
Well, it's not going to get better for the Eagles, Zach. I don't think they have any chance in this game. I liked them last week. I thought they would play with some guts on national television.
Well, they
there
didn't
on
use
Monday
Miles
night.
Sanders enough. Who's their best
Oh,
player?
they ran the ball 6 times.
Yeah.
6 times to Miles Sanders, Zach. They ran 15 plays, 5 3-and-outs to start the game. The Philadelphia Eagles.
Yeah, they're really bad, and I love it.
5 3-and-outs on the first 15 plays, and they were somehow still in the game.
Mm-hmm.
It was unbelievable. But they ain't covering that. -8.5. Aaron Rodgers is going to have a field day. Zach, I was struggling to find some Washington and Pittsburgh lines and Ravens lines, but I did find team plus 9.5. I like that.
Right.
Against Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh didn't play well today. Against Baltimore, a Baltimore team that's hurt. But if that line is true at 9.5, I like it a lot. The team really dominated last week against the Cowboys. How about Gibson, Antonio Gibson?
Yeah, they may have found something with him. He's good. Him and McLaurin are good non-first rounders on that offense.
Yeah, they are fun to watch. I like watching this team play. This football team. I said team.
Yeah, it's all right. I'm sure everybody's been having that problem this year. And next year, I think, too. I think they're keeping it for next year.
Yeah. So it's crazy they don't have a name, but that's besides the point. Plus 9.5, Zach. I like it. Pittsburgh's probably going to win this game. But the team, they got a good defense.
They have one of the best pass defenses in the NFL.
I think it's going to be interesting to see what they do against this 5-wide set that the Steelers like to run. Are they going to press? Do they have the players that can press up against these Pittsburgh receivers? Because you saw Baltimore today, although they were successful, they sagged off and kind of gave, Pittsburgh some chunk yards. I want to see what the team does here in this game. If they move up on the line of scrimmage a little bit more, trying to make their receivers work a little bit. But the Steelers will win this game, team plus 9.5. Alex Smith, comeback player of the year, man. You're awesome.
I think
Ravens,
so.
I didn't find a line here, Zach. So I'm just gonna, whip one out. I'm gonna say Ravens -6. I like it. Dallas stinks. And
okay. So you made the line?
I made the line here.
All right. We'll let you get away with it for today.
I couldn't find it. There was no line. There was no spread. Do you think it'll be worse?
No, that's a pretty good pick. Are they home or away?
They're home. Do you think it could be 8?
Yeah, I'd maybe put it up to 8. If
all right, either way,
Dallas,
I'm taking the Ravens.
Right.
So it could be 7. For this purposes, I'll put it at 8.
Okay. We'll keep
for
it.
Because all right, we'll be fair. Vegas is -8 at the Jets. Ravens -8 against the Cowboys. I like it.
Fair. Yeah.
Fair enough.
For all intents and purposes here, yeah.
Hopefully Lamar comes back. The defense looked good today, Zach. I'm worried about it just because if Lamar doesn't play because of COVID, who knows what happens. Trace McSorley is probably going to be the quarterback, and it's going to be difficult for them to try to get a rhythm. But either way, I like the Ravens in this one. Dallas, Mike McCarthy, how about that on Thanksgiving when he went for it on 4th down on a fake punt? What are you doing, man? Just punt the ball. Stop embarrassing yourself.
That team
a good look at all.
It was embarrassing. And Dak Prescott, I know he probably doesn't like watching his team lose, but could this be a better situation for him right now? The team is in shambles without him.
Yeah,
they can't do anything. They can't even run the ball without him.
And that's the other thing that really, if you're a Cowboys fan, how bad is Ezekiel Elliott, man? I mean, he's been terrible this year. He's really has. Just a terrible year from Ezekiel Elliott, Zach, and the Cowboys.
I like to see it. So.
No, exactly. I do too.
I'm glad.
I think if you're a Cowboys fan, that makes you want to puke.
You're saying. And they spend all that money on Zeke too.
Yeah.
And that ends up being an irresponsible move because that's gonna have a lot of implications around the league for guys like Saquon. And we already saw Christian McCaffrey sign that big money deal. I don't know if McCaffrey gets as much money if Zeke didn't get all that money first.
I 100% agree. And
running backs tough. I mean, I think running backs deserve the money, but when it comes to like cap space and stuff like that and high risk positions, that's going to be tough for teams, man. Because if you want to keep your running back, you're going to have to spend all this money, and then it could be like Zeke and be, not do well, or they get hit a lot and they get injured a lot. So you'll see. I don't know. It's going to be tough.
So, Zach, moving on from my just other games in the NFL, we got 2 of them. We got the Browns and the Titans. I like the Browns +6. I was really surprised with this line. I know the Titans are playing better football, but so are the Cleveland Browns. This is a really fun one, Zach, because they kind of have the same identity. A game manager, a quarterback, dominant running game, good defenses. I think the Browns' defense is a little bit better. Now, they did let Mike Glennon kind of light them up a little bit. I didn't like seeing that.
Right.
But I think the Browns +6 on the road against Tennessee in a bloodbath of a football game this is going to be.
That's going to be a fun game to watch.
I think the Browns keep it to 6, +6, Cleveland Browns. That's going to be a fun one. Make sure you tune into that. That better be on national television.
Yeah,
okay.
I agree.
Cleveland, I can't believe I'm saying that, but Cleveland at Tennessee, make sure you tune in. I don't know what channel CBS is on, but make sure you tune in and watch that football game. Browns +6. Final pick, Zach. Moneyline pick of the week. I mentioned it. And it's against one of your picks, but I mentioned last week how the Carolina Panthers literally just ripped my heart out with the loss last week. I mean,
they're a tough team to pick this year, though, because you don't know what Carolina Panthers team you're going to get each game.
And they showed up, though. That's the problem.
Yeah,
I had, and I'm still going back to it. You get 2 defensive touchdowns. You have a 3rd and goal. All you need to do, Bridgewater, is just lob the pass in. It's kind of like from Happy Gilmore. All you got to do is tap it in. That's all they needed to do. He threw a bullet pass to DJ Moore, who wound up getting hurt on the play. They lose the game. Rips out my soul, okay? It stunk. We're going to bounce back this week. Here's Zach. It's going against your pick. Get ready for it. Next money line pick of the week, baby.
Here we go.
San Fran versus Buffalo. I like San Fran.
Why do you like San Fran in this game?
Because they came out, they beat an LA Rams team on the road, a tough, gutty win. Nick Mullins, I think they got a little bit of momentum clicking there in San Francisco. Okay?
Yeah, but that's a division game, though.
Done against the Buffalo Bills. Okay, and I think they get the win. I really do. I was impressed with what I saw from San Francisco last week, and I think they beat the Bills, who had a good win against the Chargers team that really didn't all play that well. But that is my money line pick of the week. We're going to recap it real quick. Green Bay -8.5, that's a lock. Browns +6, not really sure about it, but I like it. Team +9.5, and we're going Ravens -8, and if it's Ravens -8, that was a guess.
Yeah.
Ravens -8. If you see that on your card, just think of me, because I was the first one who said it. And then I got San Fran.
Because Vegas watches the show.
And I got San Fran money line pick of the week. That's it, Zach. 1-4 last week. We're 16-14. We need to get. I'm hoping for a 4-1 week. Let's get to 20-15, baby. Let's roll.
All right. Well, we're combined 30-30, so we're right in there. if we're picked together.
That's solid. That's
not bad. That's not bad.
That's not bad.
It isn't that bad.
You know what that is? That's like a middle of the pack, a team in the NBA grinding for that 8th seed.
That's right.
That's what it is,
And they say
we're
the
Detroit Pistons of NFL picks right now.
Well, I was gonna say, if you're like a professional gambler, like over there, if you guess at 55%, that's considered really good. So we're only 5% off, which I guess depending on how much money you're putting down, maybe $100 here, $100 there, unless you're real high stakes.
All you're saying is listen to our picks, because we know what we're talking about.
We do know what we're talking about. Well, and clearly all of you at home know what you're talking about, know what to do on Spotify, and know what to do on YouTube. Thank you always for tuning in everywhere. Zack and Mac, episode 7. We'll see you next Thursday. Can't wait. We'll get going. Maybe some NBA. Matt's getting hyped about it. Well, maybe the Ravens will have another win by that point. Maybe the Giants extend their first place lead in the NFC East
That's
at
awesome.
that point. we'll see what's happening. But until then, stay safe, stay warm. It's getting real cold out there. And stay frosty. Take it easy, guys.
Cool, man.